Good afternoon to everybody, the ambassador, the delegate. Thank you very much to everybody for attending this conference. It's an honor to be here at the London School of Economics, an institution respected around the world. Let me thank both London School of Economics and the Cañada Blanch Center for hosting today this conference. And thank you, Professor Andrés Rodríguez Posser, for your kind presentation. It's doubly special for me to be here, speaking as the leader of the Socialist Party of Catalonia and candidate to the presidency of Catalonia, because we also remember the decisive role of the Fabian Society played in the creation of the university. The Fabian values of carrying out gradual reforms in the pursuit of social democracy are just as vital and necessary now as they were when the university was founded, as is the role of social research in helping to craft public policies that work in favor of the majority. London is a city of many traditions and many inspirations. Where else are you going to find a place as diverse, as multicultural, as cosmopolitan as the London of today? The London, of course, not without challenges, that provides a shining example of peaceful coexistence. London is living history, history in the making. And now allow me to take you on a little trip through that history. Because if we take a quick walk from this theater, we will find ourselves on the Strand. Carry on and we are on Fleet Street, synonymous with the need to have a free and competitive press, keeping both public and private powers on check. Go a bit further and we find ourselves at St. Paul's, one of the wonders of world architecture. John Donne, as you probably know, served as the Dean of St. Paul's, and in his most famous poem delivered a great piece of wisdom. No man is an island. And he concluded, each man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. Therefore, send not to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. I can tell you, having held the responsibility of Spanish Minister of Health during the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic, that no truer words have been spoken. No person is an island. We are all in this together. We are all in this together. We should never forget this. Ernest Hemingway would subsequently use this poem to title his novel about the Spanish Civil War. We were all in it together then, in the fight against fascism in Europe. And we must all be in it together now in the face of new dangers. Nor do we forget the contributions of young members of the British working class who came to Spain and fought because they understood that when democracy is under attack in one part of the world, it is under attack everywhere. In Spain and Catalonia, we were able to move past the horrors of civil war and dictatorship and construct a robust constitutional democracy, provide an advanced degree of self-government for the historical nations of Spain, and join the European Union. During this political transition, it was understood that the only way to strengthen our own democracy was to join the club of democracies. Federal unity was the only way forward then, and it remains the only way forward now. We currently find ourselves at the historical crossroads, precisely one of those moments where we have the greatest need to our accumulated store of wisdom. Conflict rages on Europe's frontiers. Our Ukrainian allies fight valiantly to resist Vladimir Putin's illegal and savage assault. The civilian population of Gaza is facing unprecedented and unacceptable privations, while Hamas continues to refuse to release its hostage. An outbreak of coups has toppled democratic governments from one end of the Sahel to the other. Tensions are rising in the Pacific. And of course, we face the profound threat of climate change, which we will have to address urgently in the coming years if we are to avoid its very worst effects. The democratic choices we make will be transcendental. In a few months, elections will be held across the European Union, our community of destiny, and the polls are suggesting that the right and the radical right may score a very strong result. In the United States, Donald Trump threatens both to subvert democracy and to break with Europe. We face a stark choice. Have we understood that we are all in this together? That we must cooperate? That we must engage in solidarity? That we must guarantee universal rights? Or will we embark on a path of distrust, despair, and disintegration? The only way out of our current predicament is to understand that our means must be consonant with our ends. We must engage in a politics worthy of our objectives and aspirations. We must reject the politics of division. Let me describe 10 points that characterize this type of politics, the politics of division. Short-term partisan thinking rather than a broader strategy for the greater good. Parties focus on campaigning rather than on governing. Rivals are treated as enemies. Pluralism is treated as an obstacle. Institutions become partisan instruments. Others are blamed rather than taking responsibility. Representatives focus far more on the grievances of the past than on the challenges of the future. Slogans take priority over programs. Simplicity is offered up in the face of complex solutions. Isolationism is demanded in an interconnected world. We are unfortunately very accustomed with this way of doing things in Catalonia. But we are not alone. It should be very familiar to you here and in other parts of the world. From Helsinki to Lisbon and from Miami to Seattle, it poses a challenge to all of us who believe in liberal democracy. This style of politics has many devotees and many facets. It is typical of populists who claim to speak in the name of a united people, so that they may better divide them. It is typical of xenophobic forces that claim to be unique only to end up copying with their racist neighbors. This logic of polarization can only lead to Pyrrhic victories because who always ends up losing is the general interest. Where forces seek the destruction of their adversaries at all cost, they are inevitably working to undermine constitutional freedoms. Democracy requires mutual toleration, but polarization in its maximum expression exalts the plebiscite. Those who supposedly seek the vigorous clarity of a sharp decision fall into the trap of a lazy politics, a politics that renounces dialogue, consensus building, and the slow but essential important work of bringing people together across social divides. But there is another way of doing politics, where the broader strategy takes priority over the daily demands of the news cycle, where the government focuses on its main task, which is governing for the benefit of all, not on agitating a dividing society, where rivals are treated with respect, where pluralism is understood to be the bedrock of a healthy democracy, where the neutrality of the institutions is respected and checks and balances are preserved, where those in government hold themselves accountable to the highest standards, where the wrongs of the past serve to spur greater justice in the present, not an increase in bitterness, where politicians speak sensibly to a mature and democratic public, where the complexity of reality and the need for trade-offs is acknowledged, and where it is understood that we cannot face any of the great challenges if we got it alone. None of us can go it alone. Another way of doing politics is possible, and while it is at risk undermined by authoritarians and would-be authoritarians, as we have, as committed Democrats, the obligation to continue to defend this inclusive way. It is the better way doing politics because it is the more inclusive way. And in the long run, it is the only way. In Catalonia, we have seen what the consequences are of a politics of division, of presidents who choose to confront rather than to unify. We have lost a decade on account of a sterile confrontation that has led to paralysis. Let me give you a few examples. The Greater Barcelona region faces the risk of a serious drought. Why? Because the government was not governing in the service of the general interest. When it comes to renewable energy, Catalonia has a lower share of production than Dubai. It has fallen behind the rest of Spain, which is one of Europe's clean energy superstars. Why? Because the years following the Paris Accords were squandered reviving 19th century battles instead of working to build the economy of the 21st century. Catalonia has long been a hub for innovation, for design, and for creativity. But our most recent PISA scores show that our students are falling behind. They have been provided with insufficient resources and insufficient support. And no doubt, you are all aware of the important exodus of some of Catalonia's leading companies, prompted by the regional government's inability to guarantee a minimum of stability and business confidence. As president, I will work tirelessly to bring them back. But let me also tell you, with a different way of doing politics and a different type of government, those companies would never had to have left in the first place. Not just in Catalonia, but in other places, you can also, no doubt, recognize and identify the many negative consequences of this way of doing politics, of the politics of division. Let's avoid the politics of polarization, if we can. When the institutions work to sow divisions, they begin to undermine themselves. When family members and co-workers are forced to choose sides, you generate a climate that becomes increasingly more intolerant and hostile to reasonable debate. And once reason has been entirely subordinated to the most inflamed passions, you will wake up one day to see it was all in vain, that your basic needs have been neglected, and that it would have been a much better idea not to go down that road. Is there any alternative? Our proposal, in one word, is federalism. Federalism is both a way of understanding the world and a way of governing ourselves. Federalism teaches us that different identities can coexist within the same polity, that unity does not require uniformity, that different creeds, nations, languages, and identities can come together to forge something even better out of the strength of their differences. The future is federal for Catalonia, for Spain, for Europe, and democracies to advance for the world. We are all in this together. That is the premise of federalism. The biggest problems of the day cannot be solved by individual countries or groups, no matter how strong they are. They will require a degree of unprecedented collaboration across borders and between countries. Grand challenges like tackling climate change, nuclear disarmament, or regulating artificial intelligence can only be dealt with in a multilateral fashion. Federalism allows us to advance in parallel with regards to our self-government, but also our shared government. Let me put it you another way, since this conference has been titled Strengthening Europe from Catalonia. Europe and Spain will be stronger if they have a greater presence in Catalonia, its people, its institutions, and its language. And Catalonia will be stronger if it has a greater presence of Spain and Europe, their institutions, and their diversity. We want more Catalonia in Spain and Europe, and more Europe and Spain in Catalonia. Only by strengthening the ties that bind us, by coming together in an ever closer fashion, we will be able to preserve our most cherished democratic liberties. What is at stake is no less than whether we will continue to all be in this together. Just a few weeks before the upcoming European elections, we will have elections in Catalonia on the 12th of May. I have the greatest faith in Catalonia and its people, and I have the firm conviction that we will send the strongest possible message to the rest of Spain and Europe on the doorstep of the European elections. In Catalonia, we will choose reconciliation over division. In Catalonia, we will choose tolerance over discrimination. In Catalonia, we will choose cooperation and greater integration. In Catalonia, we will do our part, and we will send a message to our brothers and sisters from Helsinki to Lisbon, from Dublin to Bucharest. We are all in this together. Thank you very much.